Hey everybody, and welcome to Q&A Wednesday, where I answer the questions that you have about your health and fitness goals. Okay, so first of all, got a new tripod, but I am still working on figuring it out. Yeah, my last one was better, but it just is what it is. I'm trying to tilt it so you don't see all this big, white space above me, but it's like being weird, so I'll eventually figure it out. And happy never-ending election week. Yeah, I don't even know what to say about that. Let's just not even talk about it. So I've got a really great topic today. I haven't talked a lot about this lately. I know I have this really funky curl that's driving me crazy right here, and I can see it, so it's like, I don't know. But really great topic today. I think one of the biggest things when people are trying to lose weight or reach their health and fitness goals, they really want to know how much food they should be eating. And that's kind of it's definitely not a simple question to respond to. I will tell you, it's one of those things that you can't just hop online and go, well, so-and-so eats like this, so I'm going to eat exactly what they're eating. That does not work. First of all, my favorite is when I get a woman who is following somebody online, their diet, and I'm going, you're not even the same body type. So I don't even know why you think that's going to work for you. There's a lot more variables involved than just going, well, I want a body like hers, so I'm going to eat like she does. That just doesn't work. So we're going to talk about how much you should be eating and why, and realize this also counts for people who are trying to do other things besides losing weight. I hate that. Thanks. Yeah, my hair, this is actually what it does when I dry it with a diffuser. It's so weird. I did not know that I had curly hair. It just kind of does that. So is what it is. So yes, we're going to talk about the differences between goals. Like if you are trying to grow some muscle, if you're a dude and you're trying to get big and well, I guess you could do that if you're a girl too, but obviously as a woman versus a man, you're going to have some different variables to talk about because your hormones are different, your body's different, the way that your body holds fat and what it does is completely different. So when I work with somebody, there's nothing cookie cutter. It just doesn't work that way. I use some basic principles in biology, and then I kind of figure out where they're trying to go with it, what they do and don't like, what their preferences are, what their traditions are, what they're trying to accomplish. And then we really kind of watch to see if their body responds. And then we start messing with variables and changing that. And of course, sometimes we come down to the point where we realize there's a variable we're missing and we're going to have to figure out what that is. And that's what happens. So, okay, so we're going to talk about how much you should be eating. Now, the first thing I'm going to tell you is if you don't track what you eat, you're going to probably struggle a little bit to reach your goals. For a couple of reasons. Now, I do really quickly want to hit on a topic of learning to listen to your body, whether it's really actually hungry, if you're feeling satiated. In today's situation where we've got that standard American diet, SAD, and that's a good reason to call it that for more than one reason, a lot of times your hormones get really thrown off because of all the chemicals and the sugars and the stuff that we're eating tricks our body's hormones into not realizing that we're actually satiated. Plus, if you're not getting the nutrients that you need, your body tends to stay hungry because it's looking for those nutrients and it wants you to keep eating until you actually get those nutrients. But unfortunately, if you're eating processed food, you're not getting those nutrients. So we end up overeating and that does become a problem. So, really, if you're at a position where you've gone from not eating super well to eating pretty decently, you actually should be kind of finding that place in your life where you can feel your body actually tells you, hey, I'm full, I don't need to eat anymore. But if you are eating a lot of processed carbohydrates and garbage, your body's not going to hit that point. It doesn't produce the leptin, which is your body's way of saying, yeah, dude, I'm full, I'm satiated. Your body actually has that internal ability, but because we eat so much processed food and there's so much. And it's not just that. Sometimes it's the xenoestrogens and the garbage that's in our environment, in the air, toxic mold, mercury in our fish. There's so much working against us. And so we literally don't even know that we're hungry anymore. So keep that in mind that can be part of the situation is if you just literally don't know that you're full. Plus, there's a big difference between being actually physically hungry and being hungry, which we call phantom hunger. And that is more of a psychological situation versus a physical situation. Just fascinated, not too long ago, about a year or so ago, realized I had a client who didn't understand what hunger really felt like, which I found fascinating. Not sure if we've just kind of gotten to a point in our culture where we just literally never stop eating. or if that just was something she just didn't recognize. And I found that really fascinating. So that is something that we really need to get back to, is allowing our body to do what it's supposed to and to teach us, because food is information. And so, yeah, I think we've got a real, more so than the pandemic we have currently going on with COVID, I think that this is kind of Mother Nature's way of saying, you guys need to get your crap together, because, things like this happen, and you should be prepared by being the healthiest you possibly can be. And that is not where we're at as a nation. So let's talk a little bit about this. How much food should you be eating? So number one, there's a couple of things that are going to play a huge role there. But the biggest one is, how many calories a day are you burning? Now, we're going to come back and talk about that calories aren't the only thing that matters, but it is a starting point, because, of course, if you are eating more than you are burning in a given day, then you are going to retain something, whether that's fat because you're eating a lot of garbage, processed food, and carbohydrates, or whether it's muscle because you're eating healthy and you're trying to build some muscle and some size or some strength. So again, there's a lot more variables than we're really going to cover here today. We're going to keep it super simple, but if you know how many calories approximately you're burning, then you can figure out approximate deficit, right? I remember when I very first started to understand the whole surplus calories versus a deficit of calories, way back when I very first started strength training and kind of changing things and started tracking my food. That was the first time I'd ever understood or heard of the fact that, hey, there needs to be a deficit here. You can't be eating more than you burn. And back then I didn't understand the quality of food and any of that, but it kind of introduced me to energy in, energy out, which again, there's more to it than that, but it's a good starting point. If you kind of look at things as a priority list, that's kind of like level one. You need to pay attention. Are you really eating more than you should be? That the other thing is too, that if you are not eating enough calories to cover your energy output, or if your deficit is a very large deficit, your body is going to think it's starving. So here's the deal. Your body does not know the difference between diet and starvation. And so if you are, let's just say that you burn 3,000 calories a day, but you're only eating 1,200 calories a day, which means your deficit is actually larger than your intake of your calories, probably not going to be burning much, because really what happens is you drop your metabolism down. Your body has to conserve because it's concerned that you are starving, right? There are mechanisms that your body has in order to make sure that you stay alive. That's its first purpose. Like, it's not even going to think optimal or healthy. It wants to keep you alive. So if your deficit is too large, your body is going to not let anything go. It's just going to drop your metabolism so that you're not burning as many calories. And we kind of saw that in the Biggest Loser series way back when, which I used to find super fascinating. Now I know it's a horrible program. Let's not go there. But anyway, they really found that after they were done, they were on such little calories and exercising for so many hours that their metabolism dropped to really unhealthy levels. And then when they were done and weren't really taught how to eat well in their normal environment, they went completely backwards and not only gained that back, but a lot of them gained more than that because their metabolism wasn't quite where it was before. So again, you have to understand that, yes, you need a deficit, but your deficit should be approximately 500 calories a day, because that gives you approximately a pound a week. Now, let me just back up and say this whole 3,500 calories equals 1 pound of fat, blah, 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 blah. You know what? There's too many things to talk about on that. You can't just depend on that. It's a decent starting point, but, burning calories doesn't mean you burn fat. So it's the more I learn, the more frustrated I get with just the mainstream knowledge, because it's just not enough information. We should be taught a little bit different. So you also have to step back and say, what is your goal? I find a lot of people, they spend 3 decades of eating garbage and getting to the point where they've put on 30 or 40 pounds more than they really want to be. And they think that they can take it off in 3 weeks by eating nothing. And it doesn't work that way. So you really, first of all, you have to be smart about it. You have to want to do it in a healthy way, because whatever you do to get there, you have to keep doing to stay there. So if you're starving yourself on a regular basis to get, and you finally get to your goal, which your body's going to fight you every step of the way, you're going to have to keep doing that to stay there. Doesn't sound real intelligent to me, But keep that in mind that, the longer it takes you to get there, the more likely you are to stay there, because it's more about the consistency and the habits that you create and the fact that you're feeding your body nutrients. You guys, we don't just eat calories. We eat nutrients. Our body subsists on nutrients and vitamins and minerals in order to function optimally. But when we're eating all this garbage, we get none of that. And then we can't figure out why we feel so gross all of the time. So yeah. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about whole versus processed, because a calorie is not always a calorie. That's why I get frustrated when we really break this down into too simple of terms and don't take all these other things into consideration. Think about it. If you eat the same amount of calories in a Pop-Tart versus broccoli, totally different ballgame, right? The broccoli is, first of all, if you're not cooking it, it's going to take your body some time to break that down. It's going to struggle to use the vitamins out of it because of the way that it's being processed. You're actually better off to steam it. But again, the calories from one, it does not equal the calories from the other, because these calories in this Pop-Tart are already processed and broken down for you. So they immediately turn to sugar in your system. And don't be fooled by the fact that it says it's enriched with vitamins. First of all, that's garbage. Your body doesn't use it the same as it does from real food. Fascinating stuff. Kind of like net carbs in processed food. Don't even rely on that. That's the biggest crock of crap I've heard. So again, you really have to, if it sounds too good to be true, this is seriously one of those situations where, yeah, it is. But a calorie is just not always a calorie, because again, your body has to work harder to break certain things down, say whole foods, than it does processed food, because it's already been processed for you. So it breaks down faster in your system. Thereby, your body actually absorbs more of the calories or the energy. And again, that's not always a good thing. So, really, if we use some common sense and realize that whole, healthy food that's grown, and again, don't get suckered into thinking, okay, well, I eat plenty of protein. Remember, you eat what your protein eats. So if you're eating beef and the beef is grain-fed, you're actually eating grain. So if you find that you're having some sensitivity, some allergies, you might have to take 2 steps back and figure out where you're getting your food from. Just something to think about. So again, it's so different. You can't count, 2,000 calories from crap the same as 2,000 calories from whole food. And I find this especially interesting when I give people sample meal plans and they're going, oh my gosh, that is so much food. I'm like, that's like 1/3 less calories than you were eating before. You just were eating it in a Big Mac and fries. It's really easy to hit those. It's really easy to eat because your body does not register that it's full. So you have to keep that in mind. All right, so we talked a little bit about how big the deficit should be. So again, this is so individualized. I can't just make a blanket recommendation and say, just go do this. I can tell you to clean up what you're eating. It's not that difficult. And I'm not saying you have to give up everything that you love. You just can't be eating it every day, all day, and expect to get where you want to go. I really find it fascinating remember the guy that lost weight on McDonald's, and it was like, okay, that's fine because you were obviously probably eating at a deficit, but you show me your heart in 2 years and let me see what ends up happening with that, because I don't care if you're eating at a deficit of calories, crap is still crap. It just is what it is. So again, it really depends on what you're trying to accomplish, but be smart about it. You can be a little more, intense for short periods of time, but make sure that it's smart, that you're not doing more damage than you're, really accomplishing. Again, if you're going on a vacation for 2 weeks and you really want to push it for a minute, that's okay. But again, don't be dumb. But really, most of us don't want to hit our goal and then go completely backwards to where we were before. So it really, again, it becomes a lifestyle. I know you're tired of hearing that, but I'm going to tell you, I was in my 30s before I even heard that concept. And I'm really bothered by that, because that's what we should be teaching the up and coming generations. And we're not teaching them very well at all. So, really, my tips to you are, first of all, just really focus on whole, unprocessed food, things that you can grow, or kill. I know that sounds horrible. And I do believe that we should have a reverence for the proteins that we eat, animal proteins, not just factory farmed garbage, grain fed. Come on. There's a huge difference there. pretty excited to find a butcher that actually raises grass-fed, grass-finished beef. So it exists. And for those of you that love to hunt, that is a great option. I find that hunters really do have, most of them, have a good reverence for the fact that they are taking the life of the animals that they are hunting. So, you know, everybody has their own philosophy, their own values. That's fine. But when it really comes down to making good choices when it comes to food, you really got to think whole, unprocessed. You know, if it's boxed, if it's shelf stable, probably not your best option. So when it comes to how much food you should be eating, you know, it's going to be an individual thing. It's going to come down to where are you currently at? Where are you trying to go? What is your body doing? How does it respond? Yes, hormones are going to be involved to an extent. I think a lot of people have been using that as maybe an excuse and or an advertising gimmick, like, it's not your fault, it's your hormones. Yes and no. You know, really it comes down to you got to be accountable for what you do and what your choices are. I really believe that in a lot of ways, not just nutrition. But yeah, you know, it's not going to be easy, but it is simple. So you just have to figure out what it is that you have to change. And you really do have to educate yourself, because what's out there is conflicting. It's misinformation. And as I've discovered, especially in the last 6 months, I don't trust anything that people say anymore. So you really are going to have to educate yourself and do some research and figure that out for yourself and really pay attention to how your body feels. So have an incredible evening, you guys. There will not be a Meals with Melissa this Saturday. We will be in Boise, Idaho for a competition with Craig Productions. Pretty excited about that. We've got some bikini girls and a figure. So that'll be really super awesome, but then we'll be back to normal. So have an incredible week, you guys. That is Q&A Wednesday, and have a great night.